Hello and welcome to the inaugural podcast of Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point! This is a podcast based on a blog of the same name because the interwebs evolved, don't you know? I'm the blogger in question and the moderator of this podcast. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. Today we're around the water cooler and digesting Series 8 of Doctor Who, the finale of which aired on BBC America on December 25th, 2014 with the Christmas special. If you're unfamiliar with Doctor Who, either because you've lived as a Mennonite all your life or in the business of ignoring cool, nerdy things, they do exist. Doctor Who is a long-running science fiction TV show about an alien known as a Time Lord who travels around in a police call box that serves as a spaceship and time machine, which is called the TARDIS, and which stands for Time and Relative Dimension in Space. With companions in tow, he discovers all manner of space civilizations and eras from the beginning to the end of time, from one end of the universe to the other, and he has made himself a few enemies along the way. The show has been in existence on and off for over 50 years. Series 8 is a part of a revival of the series that began in 2005. By way of background for the uninitiated, the Doctor, as he is not actually called Doctor Who, is an alien who can regenerate, which means when his body expires or dies for whatever reason, it changes into a new body and a new actor playing the character. A tradition that began when the first actor who played the character became very ill while the show was still very successful and opted to leave the show. The producers at the time deduced that as he was an alien, he could simply change form, and the show could continue. The departing actor, William Hartnell, rest in peace, even went so far as to suggest his own replacement. For this recent series, the 13th actor to play the Doctor on screen, Peter Capaldi, began his tenure in the role as being the 12th Doctor. Hey, it's complicated in the Whoniverse sometimes, particularly since Capaldi appeared as two other different characters in the Whoniverse, including on a previous season of Doctor Who and on the spin-off series Torchwood. With that said, though, today our illustrious panel of Whovians will be discussing the finer points and less than interstellar moments of the most recent season of Who, the first with Capaldi as the Doctor himself. It should be noted that all of our panelists have viewed the entire season and may discuss sensitive plot points. So, for those of you who haven't watched Season 8 of Doctor Who, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. At this time, I'd like to have our panelists introduce themselves, so we're going to go around the table. And if you could tell us what your first name is, how you came to start watching Doctor Who, and then how would you rate your interest in the show? This is a multiple choice question. Are you a hardcore Whovian? Have you watched everything from the first to the current Doctor, and all because you chose to do so? Because it's an unparalleled science fiction classic that you'll watch forever? Are you a new Whovian who found the revival series all by yourself and look upon it as one who viewed Star Trek The Next Generation might look on Star Trek the original series, a better version of the old with better special effects? You're totally an expert on these new series and can talk about Rose Tyler and Amy and Rory Pond and River Song and the Fields of Trenzalore. And are you a Tennant fangirl or a Matt Smith devotee? No one's judging. Or are you a classic Whovian, where you think the newfangled stuff is nice, but no one compares to the 4th Doctor, or maybe the 5th, not the 6th, but definitely the 4th, and would you care for a Jelly Baby? Or are you a converted Whovian? Did you start watching when basically someone told you to, and now you're fit in one of the other categories, you're hardcore, new, or classic? Or are you a casual Whovian? Have you only seen a few episodes and you get that there's this guy that rolls around the universe in this police call box in space and time, and there's rolling garbage cans and scary angel statues? Or are you really a non-Whovian? You're here to talk about TV, or you just don't really like labels. In fact, calling you a non-Whovian seems pretty antithetical to your state of being.
Well, I'm Amanda, and I suppose the category that fits me best is a new Whovian. My husband and I started watching the series, I think the first or second year that Tennant was on, and we started with Eccleston, went back, watched them all, then caught up. So we've been watching for years and years. I'm not a huge trivia person, so I don't know all of the details, but I do know the major things. So that's where I'm at.
I'm Kristen. I came across Doctor Who in college around 2006, 2007. I was just flipping through channels one day, and I stumbled across a 10 in Rose episode, and I've been in love with it ever since. I would say I'm in between a new Whovian and a hardcore Whovian. I obviously fell in love with the reboot, but I'm starting to enjoy the classic series a lot more, and I really enjoy how they're tying in the old with the new.
I'm Nick. I'm a hardcore Whovian. I've been watching the classics since I was a little kid with my parents. The Second Doctor's my favorite, by far. And I was skeptical of the revival, but I listened to the Nerdist podcast, and Chris Hardwick just talks it up so much I had to give it a try, and I'm just as obsessed with the new ones.
I'm Sarah. I'm a converted Whovian. As with most shows, I started watching it because my husband was watching it. And I was like, what are you watching? What's going on in this? And he said, I didn't think you'd like this. Let's watch together. I do like it. I'm also a Matt Smith devotee, so here's some more about that later.
Fair enough, Sarah.
If you're listening, Matt, call me.
And just for the record, moderator Kylie, I'm also a converted Whovian. I basically started watching Doctor Who because a friend of mine said, why aren't you watching this? It's science fiction, it's British, it's like everything you love. What are you doing? And so she showed me the first episode of the revival, and I wasn't sold at first, but when David Tennant came along, it was all over. And now I'm kind of becoming a hardcore Whovian because I've gone back to start and watch the classics. So with the very first Doctor, it's a whole new world. So let's get the elephant out of the room. Since we're here to talk about Doctor Who, what did we all think of the newest Doctor, Peter Capaldi, i.e. the one with the eyebrows and the Scottish accent? He made a point of saying that quite a bit. Have you adjusted to him yet in this current regeneration? How does he compare to other revival doctors or even other doctors, since we've got some classicists in the room?
I don't understand a word he says. I cannot understand what he is saying. So it's really hard for me to like him. I'm trying. But I will just say I don't love Clara that much, so it's that makes it double hard for me. Because if you don't love the companion and then you're not sold on the Doctor, you're kind of like, why am I still watching?
Wow.
This?
Got it right out of the gate.
I don't hate him, but truthfully, it's very, very hard for me to understand him. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll put the captions on for different shows, but this one's not on Netflix yet, so you kind of got to go through a different channel to watch it, and I wasn't able to do that. So I'm not always sure I get what he's saying, really.
That's fair.
Anyone?
He does have a very thick Scottish brogue, and he talks really fast. I don't know if you noticed that, but in this series in particular, it's like they have to say every line at like a breakneck pace, or they might forget it, or I don't know, fall over before they get a chance to say it.
Yeah.
They all talk fast, though.
That's just good TV to me. Like, all my favorite shows, they're fast-talking shows, and we watch a lot of British shows in my house, so I think I'm used to the accent more, and we've traveled, and my husband loves to do a Scottish accent, so I think I've just lived with it. He loves accents, so sometimes he just does them, so I think maybe we're more comfortable. So I've actually really enjoyed Capaldi. I think he brings things that I liked about all the newer Doctors, kind of the anger, the seething of Eccleston, and then, but still some of the silliness of the other two, the things that I liked about, those other ones that, it brings the silliness still to the character, because the show is silly. It's a kid's show, in theory. So I like that it's still, he keeps it light, but yet he does have a little bit of an edge to him, which I think Matt Smith didn't really have, for sure. So I enjoy that about him as well.
I'm with Amanda. I love Capaldi. I was not the biggest Matt Smith devotee fangirl. I'm
dying.
So this change and going back to more of the Tennant and Eccleston years is my favorite thing. I really like how Capaldi's version of the Doctor is allowing us to see a different side of the character that we've come to know and love over the past couple seasons, both classic and the reboot. But I'd have to say right now he's my second favorite Doctor, period, after Tennant.
Wow.
So I like the contrast. I'm interested to see where it goes.
Okay.
I like Capaldi a lot. I still like Tennant more, but Capaldi's not done, so we'll see.
Great.
But he does bring that anger that it reminds me of the first Doctor, who was just a cranky old man. So he's pulling right from that, which I like. But he does have more goofy, silly qualities, which the Doctor does need.
I do like, what I really liked about Capaldi is they addressed right off the bat that he's older and not young and hip. And they let us see that Clara was like, maybe not okay with it at first. Mm-hmm. They didn't, because I know a lot of the fans were, oh, Matt Smith is so cute, or oh, Tennant is so, dreamy, or whatever. And I like how they just addressed it. Let's get over it. Let's move on. Because it used to not be, it wasn't about Doctor Who being hot. Like, it wasn't about him being good looking. And then all of a sudden it was, kind of. So I like that they did those first couple episodes where she was kind of confused by it, and then they just let us all get over it with her.
The weird thing is, fans back in the day did find, like, Tom Baker attractive, and if you look at him now, he's just a goofy, wild-haired, not a modern.
That's true.
He had a white man's fro. Let's face it.
Yeah. But it was cute.
It was cute.
It was cute.
Well, in the 70s, he was probably hot.
And I was never a fan of the, like, will they, won't they hook up, like, relationship thing between the companion and the Doctor, because I always thought it was really weird and uncomfortable, and it made it too, like, sitcom-y for me, and I was like, I don't want that from my sci-fi. I don't know, I just, like, if I want that, there's other shows for that.
X-Files.
Yeah, I didn't like it then either. So, I have strong opinions about this. I just, tell me a good story. That's what I want. Mm-hmm. And it's, what I turn to the show for is something that's going to make me feel good about humanity, like we have some sort of redeeming quality because this guy is willing to save us over and over again. I don't necessarily want to ship him with his, companions.
Thank you. I feel the same way. I feel there's been way too much of it, especially throughout the reboot. I mean, not that I hated the Rose and 10 storyline. I kind of liked it, but, it's over. It's done. I like the more best friend element, the traveling companion element, and I really like the fact that they came out and said, I'm not your hot, sexy boyfriend anymore. This is done. We're not having this relationship again. And I felt that opened the door to a lot of new things with Clara to give her a personality, finally, because she was missing it.
There was also a moment, though, I don't know if you caught it, and I don't remember which episode it was, where Capaldi's Doctor actually makes some comment about maybe you weren't the one who thought I was your boyfriend, and which also, I think, gave a lot of dimension to the Doctor and the Doctor's transition from one to the other, and still kept the Matt Smith piece alive. How did you guys feel about Matt Smith appearing in the premiere and calling her from the time he was dying and the time of the Doctor?
I loved it. I was like, oh, he's there.
Admittedly, it doesn't... Anytime you bring a past Doctor in, even if it's just a stupid clip from the classic, I go crazy. It doesn't even have to make sense. So that even made sense, so I loved it even more. But I get excited anytime.
Yeah, I felt it was definitely a device for the audience to help them transition.
Sure.
I mean, it was emotional. I cried a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Not the biggest Matt Smith fan in the room, but I felt it was a necessary device to help the audience transition from one to the other. Yeah, my face is different, but I'm still the same guy deep down.
I like that they addressed his age, but for classic Who fans, they haven't addressed that he's technically out of lives?
Well, there was actually a point in one of the episodes where he said something to the effect of, I regenerated. I wasn't supposed to regenerate. Now I can regenerate all the time, or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, and also, too, River Song did give 11 her remaining lives when she killed him the first time in the Hitler episode.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So that's what I figured. Like, so she's regenerated 3 times, so he has the rest of hers now.
Guess I just wanted more. I've seen the movie, and the whole movie was about the Master getting a 13th life, and it was the worst thing any Time Lord had ever done. So
The movie was pretty campy.
Guess I wanted more addressed. It's all campy.
I know, but that one more so.
That raises a good question, though, because I wouldn't have thought of that callback to River Song. You know, in the time of the Doctor, it was very... The way it was depicted was that it was the Time Lords through this dimensional portal where Gallifrey was trapped that somehow imbued him with this new energy. So, you know,
That's another possible explanation.
Yeah, it raises so many questions. Like, and maybe they'll get to that, actually. I don't know.
Yeah, that was my understanding, was that they somehow were able to override, and because he's
Doing
the last
great
one or whatever, you know,
things,
because he's so unique now that it's suddenly okay and the rules don't necessarily apply to him, which is frustrating in that, you know, it turns the world you knew upside down, but if you want the world to continue, you sort of have to
Right, they're breaking the rules for a good purpose.
I think that's why Gallifrey is still hidden, and they're going to leave it so we don't have other Doctors to compare it to. Like, there's an episode where he heals River's wrist, and she said, "You wasted perfectly good regeneration energy." Like, you could do anything. It's basically magic, so let's just stay away from it.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
I forgot that.
So that actually begs the question. I mean, that was one of the things, such a thing that came out of the 50th anniversary special was Gallifrey still out there, and then Tom Baker, spoilers, Tom Baker's appearance at the end of that special basically told Matt Smith's Doctor, hey, Gallifrey's out there, and maybe your purpose is to look for it. And yet they didn't even remotely come back to it during the season with Capaldi. So the question would be, do we want them to come back to it?
Well, answer me this, classic Who people. Gallifrey wasn't always missing, right?
No, that was...
The Time Lords are in it. It's not always a huge thing, but sometimes... I think the third Doctor is, like, punished by them and isn't allowed to do some traveling, and we see Gallifrey and Time Lords. And we see them in one of the revivals with Tennant.
Yeah.
But they are still trapped and lost.
Yeah, the whole thing of Gallifrey being lost was invented by the reboot creator Russell T Davies as a device to explain kind of what has been happening since we ended the original series. So it's a more newer device, but I guess we'll kind of see where they take it.
It happened after the movie, before Eccleston.
Exactly.
And there was another Doctor during that time.
Right, we saw it happen, right? Is that when John Hurt was the Doctor?
Yeah.
Right.
They're addressing the break.
Yeah. We're meant to believe that he destroyed Gallifrey because the Daleks would destroy it otherwise.
The Time War.
And
so I guess if you're more of like a converted Whovian, this isn't Dr. Seuss, I'm not a Who. If you're more of a converted Whovian like me, I don't really care, because to me it's always been not there. But do you guys care? I mean, do you want it back? What's the deal?
I think if the show's gonna go on longer, they might. There's only so much tinkering you can do to keep the last TARDIS running, and so I feel like they would need it to, and this is a show that could go on for another couple decades. The whole cast can change, so I think they would need to if it was going to keep going.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep that storyline in their back pocket for a little while longer until they run out of other good options for the present. Because there still is a lot more to explore with what we've already been presented with, where that story, they can make little hints or make some developments, but wait and address it further down the line.
So let's talk about some of the current elements. What did we think of Missy?
I called it from the first. I knew who she was.
When she was dancing in the garden. And
yeah, from the first episode, it's like, oh, Missy, okay, she's the mistress. The master has come back and regenerated. Done.
I just couldn't remember what happened with the last regeneration.
I couldn't either, because that was during Ten's years.
Mm-hmm.
So now I almost want to go back and rewatch.
Yeah, it was Ten's last episodes where he finally defeated him.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty final, so that was another thing. Oh yeah, I'm back. And
the master's never always gone.
Yeah,
she's coming back officially for next series.
Back.
So
that has been announced this week, actually, by BBC. So,
and it's just like the whole Time War was to defeat the Daleks, and how many episodes have they been in?
There's all these loopholes and other timelines where they come back through another dimension, and no one's ever really gone.
Well, and I think you have to have characters that are a match for the Doctor. I mean, if you just have, lesser problems all the time, it's boring because he's just better than. So, it's the Daleks he can never really defeat, and he can never really get around them. The Master is his equal, or the Mistress now, is his equal in that, similar abilities here, so, and a knowledge of him that other, characters, villains, what have you, would not have. And so I think that brings it interesting. There's history there, so it makes it more personal, whereas with other, conflicts, it's not as personal.
Does anyone know which Doctor first, the first episode with the Master? What Doctor that was?
I don't. I'd have to go back and look. I feel like 4 might have been, but I'd have to go back and look.
Because I know there's the 3 Doctors. When it's the first time we have the first 2 working together, the villain is a Time Lord that's gone bad. So I was wondering if they just pulled from that or what.
I don't know. I had no collective knowledge in the room, apparently. That begs the question. Maybe somebody will comment on the link for this and tell us.
Or why is that episode not on Netflix?
Right.
Well, this is true. Why does Netflix not have Classic Who? Although Hulu Plus does, but not all of the episodes.
Netflix has some Classic Who.
Yeah, they have some 4-part, 3-part adventures, but they don't have the first 3 Doctors or the 4 Doctors.
They have one First Doctor series, 4 episodes, and it's awesome and it's horrible.
The Aztecs one, I
mean,
the
that.
cameraman trips. And they just keep going.
They just go through it like it's nobody's business.
That's true. There is a series on the blog called Things I Learned from Doctor Who as I'm venturing through the First Doctor, and we call through a lot of the interesting camera things that happened because they were clearly recording live and didn't go back to edit, so that's what you get in 1964.
Yeah, he repeats lines because he said it too early, and it's good. I like it. But he was also sick and losing his mind in some of those. His memory was going. So he did a pretty good job with what he had.
Yeah.
Overall, the quality of television and acting and everything has improved, so it's always interesting to go back and see the things from that era and just go, oh my goodness.
These special effects were believable back then? Okay.
Oh, they were so cool.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's hard, is that they were, same thing with classic Trek, they were blowing people's minds at the time.
They were. Yeah.
And then you watch it now and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yes.
But the people doing Trek now, or Who now, grew up with that and was like, that's what I want to do. Not, I want to fix this. They just...
I want to make it better.
Absolutely. I want to be part of this thing. Yeah, I come from the sci-fi from Star Trek because my dad is a huge Trekkie. So it's, when I think about it, I haven't watched all the old Doctor Who's, but it's when you go back and watch those things, you see where the ideas are planted and you see how they start to form, this world, and it's always really interesting to see that, even though it's campy and silly. And
I love that a modern day audience can still feel that threat from the Daleks, even though it's still like a whisk and a plunger. They really didn't update the Daleks.
I think it's more automated now, if that makes any difference.
But essentially, that's what it is. It's a whisk and a plunger.
It is a whisk and a plunger.
But their voices are annoying enough to kill
yeah.
you just by listening to them say exterminate over and over and over. That's the threat to me. I'm like, oh, stop. Just exterminate me. I can't handle this.
The idea for that was based on, from World War II, Nazi patrols going through the announcement. They were trying to make it sound like that.
It is like
during
a little...
the Cold War when this came out.
Yeah.
So...
It is jarring when all of a sudden in an episode you hear, exterminate.
Well, it is jarring, yeah. They are scary. In fact, the Daleks, well, there was only one really Dalek that appeared this time in this season. Did we miss them?
No.
No.
The Daleks and Cybermen, every time they pop up in a new episode now, the link to the past, that coolness for me isn't there. And I almost start to roll my eyes, but when they do bring them back, they have a good new story to tell.
Right.
But I'm still like, them again? But they, I mean, the Cybermen, it ends with the Cybermen, and it's a completely different type of storyline with the Cybermen. So it's worth bringing them back. If when they don't, I just assume it's because they don't have a story to tell using them. So I appreciate them not overdoing it.
Well, and I don't think the Cybermen were ever really eliminated, were they?
No.
No. And, Missy brings them back. I mean, that's what we find out is the whole story. I don't know if you noticed this, but did you feel like this season was constructed? Because a lot of the complaint about Stephen Moffat, there was a big Russell T Davies versus Stephen Moffat debate where there's people who think Moffat's destroyed the series and then Davies was the only good producer, and others who feel, no, he's doing just fine. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Moffat has had very serialized seasons, where particularly because he started during Matt Smith's tenure, a lot of those seasons are a whole story, episode to episode to episode, with very little standalone properties. Whereas the Davies years, and somewhat this one, arguably, but you can tell me, have more loosely based episodes with very little connection until kind of the punchline hits you at the back end. Did you notice that? How did you feel about that?
I noticed it. I like it because it is pulling you back to some of the classics that it was never a standalone episode. It was always a 4 or 6 part story that they were telling. So I like that it's a little balance of we kind of have a standalone and there's a little arc going through it. I enjoy that.
Yeah, I always appreciate when there's an arc tying things together. I just think it's more cohesive for me. We're leading somewhere. I didn't see as much of that this season, and I actually missed it. Okay. I like to see a little bit more like hints of what's to come, or there's actually a point to this other than just adventures in space, which is fun and fine, but then I start to want something a little bit more. So
for a show that's going on this long, you can't just have adventures in space.
Right.
I think.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because I really liked Stephen Moffat when he was under Davies. You know, I mean, he brought us the Weeping Angels and the Clockwork Droids, and he wrote some of the best episodes of that run. I mean, and I was optimistic when he took over for the Matt Smith years and forward, but I was really disappointed with the Matt Smith run as a whole. There was more episodes that I didn't like Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, than I liked. And now I think with Capaldi, he's maybe gone back to his days under Davies, and I liked way more Capaldi episodes in one series than I have in all of Matt Smith's run.
See, and I think that's funny because I liked the Smith ones better than the Capaldi ones. We sat through these and we watched them, and we kept turning to each other and going, are you really interested in this? And we were like, no. We didn't feel like they gave him anything to work with in terms of, like, interesting things. I had to re-look at what these episodes were. None of them stuck in my mind as, like, wow, that's a really cool concept. For me, it was just, okay, all right, it's another Doctor Who episode. But, like, I felt like every other season I've had an episode that really stuck with me. And I thought, wow, that's such a cool concept that they came up with. And I felt like a lot of this was more of the same of what I've seen. You know, there was nothing new that I was like, yes, this is what I will put my finger on, is like, this represents this Doctor and what it's about. I don't know.
I agree with that. I think they're trying to find some traction with it.
I don't know who was the producer during most of Matt Smith. Was that Moffat?
Yeah.
I thought that they did a good job of, with River Song and all of that storyline. It kept coming back again, and how they kept meeting in time, but where were they, and who were we going to find out, you know, who is this person? So I thought that was a good storyline that kind of just kept going. Capaldi, I feel like they tried to do that with Missy, but if you didn't catch on, like, Kristen caught on right away who she was, but obviously I didn't, because I didn't know. I just thought she was like some crazy lady dancing in a garden. So when she kept coming back, I was like, okay, either tell me who she is or let's move on from this, because I don't.
Well, and Capaldi didn't. It was separate.
He wasn't aware of
yeah.
it.
Yeah. So it was just a little thing for us, but it was almost, it could have just been a teaser for a future episode. It wasn't a part of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the one overlying story arc for this season, which I missed a bigger arc, I will admit. I like the serialized episodes with hints to what's to come. But, I don't know, Missy, they could have done more with her.
Well, and
I really feel from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, and I think it maybe, I don't know if you were the exception to the rule or the rule. I know for me, when I was watching it, I did start to think she was the master before the end, before it was revealed, but it took, a few appearances of this woman and some of the things she said to make me think, oh, maybe that's the master, and to have that start congealing in my brain. So, I don't know.
I mean, for me, it was her name being Missy. I mean, how hard. It's not a big enough departure. But then even some of her mannerisms were really, I don't know, they were very similar to the master during the Tennant years when he started really going crazy. So that's what pulled me into it. But again, I could be the exception to the rule where I picked up on it sooner than it was intended for the audience to pick up on it.
Did anyone else feel like Amanda, where there were really no episodes that kind of stood out for you? I know for me, and I just watched it maybe a little over a month ago, kind of binge-watched it, but there are a couple of episodes that really do stick out for me, but I do understand what you're saying, too, where probably that would have been more so during the Matt Smith and the David Tennant periods. And is this... Maybe it's a transitional thing. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it's transitional. I think Matt Smith is the only one that kind of started out pretty hard with a story arc. We took a little more time with Tennant, and I'm sure the Bad Wolf stuff started right away with Eccleston, but it was more like how the Missy stuff is. Just something there. But at least Eccleston and Rose saw the words.
Yes.
Is the only other difference, but it is... I think it just takes a season for us to really get to know this relationship and this actor's portrayal of the Doctor before they could dive into a bigger arc. And I just want to say I liked dinosaurs on a spaceship.
We're not friends anymore.
That's fine.
Oh, wow.
I'll take the dinosaurs.
How close were you really anyway?
Were there any episodes in this season, though, that you particularly liked?
I don't know. I wasn't going to say I liked this episode, but the finale stuck out to me with the death. And is there life after death, or are you going to this place? And kind of how the people creep me out when they're like, don't cremate me. And
Are you
how
talking
they...
the Christmas special? Is
Yeah, yeah.
No, this is the
Cyberman.
No.
The
actual
one?
the series finale, not the standalone special.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Where they're dying.
Don't
cremate me. 3 words? I don't know.
Where
Oh,
Dan-
right. I see what you're saying. Okay.
And
I caught up.
Danny is in that place where we're...
That's the only one that had... I think what Doctor Who does almost every season is they have, like, an awesome concept, not just a crazy alien that does something. And I think, like, The Silence and The Weeping Angels is just a cool concept or idea, and that's the only episode like that for me that I'm like, that's awesome to just think about and talk about. But, this one had more that I was like, there were more episodes that bored me than any in the revival, I feel like. I didn't care for Mummies on the Orient Express.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That
See, and
wasn't
I
my
liked that
favorite.
one.
Oh.
And the Moon one, too, was just, I was kind of...
The moon one had me, and then at the end I was like, blah.
I actually really enjoyed, and I'm probably going to be unpopular in saying this, but I really like the one where the trees grew overnight.
I actually
like
liked
that
that one. I liked that one.
Yeah, it really stuck out for me. It kind of really amplified the relationships, not only between the Doctor and Clara, but also Clara and Danny, and just sort of the relational aspects of this new Doctor to the world he's found himself in. And there was kind of a broader sort of humanitarian message there that I thought was
that's
really
why I
neat.
liked it.
Yeah.
Probably it tapped into your kind of hippiness too, but
True.
just the Earth is taking care of its own kind of thing.
Yeah,
like the trees are our
peace and
friends.
love.
Let's hug them, man. So like, I don't know. I left was like, aw. He went all like green for this episode. I liked it. I thought it was an interesting concept too because it was something completely different. Here's this inanimate, seemingly, being, and it's all around us all the time, these trees, and yet there they protect us from, the big bad, which was it a solar flare? Is that what it was? I can't even remember.
Yeah, I think it was a solar flare.
Solar flare. So
one that happens once every gajillion years.
right,
or something.
the Earth just takes care of us, and I'm like, that's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the series finale with, I think it's Death in Heaven, with the Cybermen. I mean, that was heart-wrenching for me. It's like, I really liked Danny. He was I really liked his journey.
Yeah,
I
let's
know.
talk about Danny.
I know. I really liked it, and I felt, while I'm not happy that he's gone, I did like his send-off. I felt it was very true to his character, and the little nod to Classic Who with the Brigadier, I really liked.
I love the
like
Brigadier.
that. I like
I
the
love the
Brigadier.
Brigadier.
Yeah.
I did not like... All I could think of was when the kid came through that he saved, and it was years later, how creepy it would be that... oh, here's my child that is dead. Oh, he's alive and hasn't aged in the past, I don't know how many years.
I didn't like that part. I wish
like,
it was
no,
Dave,
it should have just
but-
been him. That's almost like a torture to the parents, I feel like. I don't know. It wasn't a good, nice gesture that they spun it, in my opinion.
Well, and it was interesting that he meets his sort of end, spoilers, and yet they had this episode where Clara is clearly meeting her great-great-grandchild who looks just like him. I mean, we know the future can change,
Right.
in Doctor Who, but it's interesting that was constructed that way, and I wonder why.
Maybe he's not really gone.
That's true. No one really is gone
Yeah.
from the Doctor Who universe, are they?
No,
As much as they'll say fixed points in time, that one might not be a fixed point.
That's true.
I did not like him as a character. I didn't like the relationship between him and Clara. Every time he was on my screen, I was like, make him go away. And I just don't know. I didn't think he was very likable.
Oh, I liked him. He was adorably awkward. But maybe that's just me.
I like adorably awkward. I don't think he was adorably awkward. But maybe I like nerdy adorably awkward more. I don't know.
Yeah.
They took aspects of the relationship Rose's boyfriend had with Eccleston, and even some of the tension Rory had with Matt Smith, and like amplified it and made it just uncomfortable. And well, it would be easy if he wasn't here, and they could do that because they write this show.
I feel like they were trying to really contrast Rory and Amy. We'll go with Doctor Who, and everything will be great. And then, nope, you can't do this. This is bad, so you better lie about it. And then I was like, I don't care. Go save people. I don't, I'm not being very articulate. But it was also confusing, and Nick brought this up when we were talking about it, how he seemed to be able to get her back to, like, these points in time pretty exactly.
Is he the best doc? Like, oh, now I really got it down. Because
before it was like, I'll try to get you back, but I don't know when.
all of them, it's, oh, this isn't the right spot. Oh, this isn't the right country. I'm 2 years off. Always. But every single episode was, I took you at the beginning of lunchtime and lunch just ended. It was just too perfect.
It was a little contrived. I'll give you that.
But Matt Smith's doctor did it with the Ponds in their anniversary episode, where he kept taking them off in the middle of their party, and then it was Rory's dad who'd be like, why are they wearing different clothes? They look a little older. How long have they been gone this time? So Capaldi isn't the first one to be able to get him back
he was
exactly
able
when he
to
needs
do
to.
that on the same day. So that I feel like when the TARDIS, he doesn't land it perfectly, it's because there's something that the Doctor is supposed to be there for. So I buy it on the same day. There's nothing in this area, in this time, that the TARDIS needed to pull him towards. But that it was just the whole, was it a year? That he could always just plop him down just seemed a little less Doctor Who-like to me.
Well, somebody did call Peter Capaldi the scientific doctor. He's the scientific doctor, as opposed to, apparently, the non-scientific versions of 9, 10, and 11.
Well, all they had to do was throw in a line where he's like, man, I'm getting really good at
Yeah,
this now.
yeah.
Or something.
Hang a lantern
And
on
they
it.
did not.
That's true.
I don't know. That I didn't notice that until Nick said something, and I was like, oh, yeah. That's...
It just is something every single Doctor, where you're almost like, he can't fly this thing. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, and in some cases, it propels the adventure forward. Like, that was the entire first Doctor's motif was, oh, I'm going to get you there. Oh, but I'm not there yet. And let's stop and explore it.
Just
And
a
make some
crazy
enemies.
Crazy old
Yeah.
man who doesn't know how to drive.
That's right. That's right.
I think the Capaldi-Clara relationship is just my least favorite out of any companion.
No, Martha's
Doctor.
way worse.
Mine,
Martha is
Martha.
way
More
worse.
much maligned Martha.
Donna Noble's my favorite.
Yes,
Of all
thank
that.
you. Thank you.
I don't even want to talk about Donna. I'll cry. She's the best. But I don't think there's chemistry between these two. Like, I kind of want Clara to go so we can get somebody who can actually, like, play off of Capaldi and, like...
And I liked Clara before Capaldi.
I loved her, so I was like, oh, good, she's staying, I'm so glad. And then, now with this chemistry, I'm like, you can go now. Like, I kind of was hoping maybe she'd just stay with Danny, and then they'd go away, and then we could have somebody new. And now we're still stuck with her. Like, I thought for sure she was going.
She is committed to the next series.
I know.
Okay, I'm excited about, because I do like Clara. I do. I mean, I feel like the writers, they're finally giving her a personality. It's taken them so long, but I feel like they're starting to show glimmers of who she is and what she's like. And
it is good that they're giving her a personality. I'm just not liking it.
Well, I like her and I like him. I like them separately. I do not like them together. Like, I would never put them together.
I feel like they started off with such an awesome storyline for her. Like, she keeps popping up and they don't know why. And that was such a cool storyline.
It was really cool.
And then they're like, oh, now we can't think of anything. So let's give her this boyfriend who doesn't like her traveling. And then we'll just...
Which they already did.
How it's wreaking havoc on her real life outside of the TARDIS.
And she's so completely possible now.
Yeah.
Like, I liked when there was this air of, like, something kind of crazy, weird.
Right,
like,
something's not right about her.
Yes, like, she's totally different. And now she's so completely ordinary that I just don't even...
Yeah.
Like, it makes me sad for her and for her character.
Well,
that
they don't...
took all that
and
away.
they just don't seem to... What they show, it just seems like they don't enjoy traveling together. But obviously they do, because they keep doing it, and she'll even lie about it. But that's... All the other ones... It's very obvious they wanted to do it and are having fun. Yes. And whatever the tension is or isn't, it's more enjoyable.
Yeah, these two seem to argue a lot. I mean, they're just constantly insulting each other.
in a less... Sometimes that's fun, but it's not...
We're not having fun.
Yeah. I do enjoy every time he insults her. It makes me really happy because, well, I think because Smith was so, like... so into her that now this one's like, yeah, I'm just not that into you. And, like, you're not that great. And, like, I think it's funny to watch him put her down when she's sort of, like, overconfident. And so I think it's funny. And also I love those little, like, Britishy side snarky things. So it makes me happy. But...
No matter what he says or does, it seems like this is the companion that he's stuck with. Like, he didn't choose her, but he's just going with it. Because it's who was there from the last Doctor.
True.
That's what it feels like.
But they also had that precedent with Rose Tyler because she transitioned from 9 to 10 and then eventually left.
Right, but it didn't feel like Tennant was stuck with her. It felt like he wanted her still to be there.
Well, there was that whole romance that we alluded to earlier. So, Missy's coming back. And we've seen what she can do so far this season. She brought back the Cybermen. What are you hoping will happen in the next series, if anything? You know, with her, with the Doctor, with Clara.
I want them to address where he got his face. I mean, they alluded to it a little bit, like, you know, I've seen this face before, where have I seen this face? And from reading interviews with Moffat, he's talked about how he's called up Davies and said, hey, I heard back in the day you had a theory as to why there can be multiple Peter Capaldis in this universe, and they're going to work it in at some point, but I want it to know. I want to know what their end game is with, you know, addressing it. Because in the past, they never addressed it, or it was a throwaway line like, oh, I had a cousin, you know, or we're related. You know, there's never been two in a relative short time period. I want to know where he got the face. And how it's going to tie in.
Yeah. Well, I guess they've addressed that the Tennant's daughter that in that episode where
Jenny.
That she's doesn't have any Time Lord in her at all. But
who David Tennant is now married to, by the way.
Yeah.
And is the daughter of Peter Davidson.
True.
The fifth Doctor.
Yep.
The fifth Doctor. Yep.
I wanted her to have some sort of Time Lord ability and bring her back, but they had that line, I think, in this series that she has no Time Lord qualities at all. So, I don't know. I guess I wish they would bring her back, but I don't think they're gonna.
I'd like to see more of the story arc. And if Missy's coming back, I want to see more. I mean, they need to know when she's doing things. I don't want the meanwhile back at the ranch feeling of like I'm scheming behind. That's so
You want it more
dancing
integrated.
in a garden.
Yeah.
Crazy lady dancing in a garden.
Another sphere.
Yeah, like don't hide it now. I want her to be like in his face and like messing everything up. And like if it's going to be the long story, that's fine, but like let him know that she is meddling with what's going on. And let's see it, and let's actually build a bigger story, because
I actually think those two actors, Capaldi and whoever played Missy, had
Michelle
really,
Gomez,
Michelle
I believe.
Gomez, there you go, had really great
They
chemistry.
do. They
They
have
have
really
great-
good chemistry.
so I'd love to see more of her showing up and just messing with him. I think that would be really entertaining to watch, because I like the dynamics, I think, and if we're not getting rid of Clara, we need something.
Oh.
And I like her, just not with him, so like the dynamics are there. I don't know, maybe we'll get something interesting with Clara to do, and then it'll be better, or maybe they'll figure out how they relate to each other. That would be good too, if they could kind of find a way to make that relationship work, because it's just been kind of ako taco. You know?
Well, I think the Christmas special started to get a little bit closer to that, though.
I feel like the same thing.
Yeah, with the resolution and sort of once she got past Danny finally and got some closure there, I think they started to acknowledge each other in a very genuine, heartfelt, and possibly even kind way, which they weren't even really being kind.
Yeah. Because they both realized they had each lied to the other to make sure that the other one was going to be happy. So there is some kind of love there, but I think Kylie's right. I think it's going to show maybe what's going to be the precedent going forward with their relationship.
When I saw that the Christmas special had Patrick Troughton's son, the second Doctor, his son is in it.
Who is he? I missed that.
He's the first one who dies.
Oh.
He was the bigger guy.
Okay, yep.
Well, let's do more with this guy because he's got the Who lore background, but no, he was just a random character, and that's cool too, but
Well, you caught it.
I think I read it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think I saw the name, so I looked it up, and it said it was his son.
I want something I probably can't have, but I would like to see River's song again.
Oh, no.
You're wrong. She would be great.
I do think her chemistry with Capaldi would be really good.
That's what I want to see, because...
But I feel like, how are they going to bring her back? Because
I
the
don't know.
storyline seems very...
I don't know, but that's why I don't write science fiction, because I always think, how are they going to get out of this? And then they do. So there's got to be somebody smart enough to figure it out, write it down, get Alex Kingston in here. Because her whole thing was, oh, we're married, and well, now this is what your husband looks like. Go be married with him. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there could at least be a point where he comes back to Trenzalore, because in that series finale, I mean, that's where he encountered her as a ghost, right?
Right.
Or a spirit or some shadow of what she used to be. And how he found out about the Impossible Girl and all of that stuff. So maybe he could find himself there and at least bring her in for a one-off. That would be fun.
Or they can travel through time.
Yeah, they
Right?
they find a way to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought Rose back in their own odd way.
Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't playing Rose, but that was good enough for me.
It worked well.
It did work out.
The other thing I want, which is unfortunately way impossible, is Sarah Jane to come back, because I just
Yeah.
want to see her and
I
K9.
really liked her. She was fantastic.
She's a very popular companion. Probably the
the most popular.
Yeah. Are there any villains that you'd want to see aside? I mean, I don't know if you want to see more Daleks and Cybermen, but maybe even some of the villains from the past revival seasons. Or from the classic series that they haven't touched yet.
I would like to see more classic villains come back. I think is it the Rainy, as I'm saying it right, maybe? I don't know, but I know she's a rogue time lady, and I always thought her storyline seemed very interesting, so I think that'd be kind of cool. It's another match, but with Missy now being female, maybe they don't need that element anymore.
I kind of miss the Weeping Angels. They're the
Only-
scariest ones.
Yeah, they're the scariest, but every once in a while I laugh because I just picture trying to get through one of the Super Mario castles, and if you look at the ghosts, you have to look at the ghosts for them to stop in that game.
That's true. These angels are scarier than the ghosts.
Blink is the best episode there is.
It is, and it's a Stephen Moffat episode. He's
It's
capable
that-
of great things.
They have not topped it, and I don't know if it was the second or the third one that we see the Weeping Angels.
Is that a
the
David
crap.
Tennant?
Blink is David Tennant and Martha, but they are not,
They're not
featured in that
no.
episode. They're in it, but it's through somebody else's eyes. He's trying to communicate with that person. But the one where they're on a spaceship, I think they're underground and there's a bunch of weeping angels frozen there, and then they're on a spaceship that's upside down and they mess the gravity.
Yep, that's with River Song.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
That was Matt
I
Smith.
did not care for that.
I didn't
episode.
either. I thought that was stretching their
So I love
villainy a little
the
too
weeping
far.
angels, but
In
they
their
have
original
to bring
form.
it back. But it's hard because the gimmick is, we know it.
We've heard that story before. That's what I was thinking, do we really want them to do too much with them because then they ruin them because then they become stupid or something, like suddenly we're not
Right.
as afraid. I want to be able to go back and watch that episode and just be terrified again. Just thinking, ooh, how creepy, and I blink a lot, so I'd be dead. These are the things that I think, and there's, I know a lot of people that are freaked out by statues and things now because of that episode, and I think that's wonderful. And
I live that experience now, I have to say.
if we see them again and again and again, does it get to be like what we said about the Daleks and the Cybermen, where we're just like, okay, and we're here again, and we know it's going to end something similar to this. There's only so many ways you can defeat them, kind of thing. It's fine to bring them back and have them be campy, but I don't want the Weeping Angels to become campy.
Same thing with the Silence. I love them, but
Their stories played
yeah,
out.
Yeah, I don't know how you would bring something new to it and it be as good.
So what we're saying is we want Moffat and company to create a new terrifying villain.
Yes.
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 Wow, agreement. Universal agreement. So are you going to keep watching? Are you going to watch the next series?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it hasn't jumped the shark for me yet. I mean, I'll keep watching, and let's be honest, a show like this I probably will watch until it's, done or it gets so terrible. I'll put up with a lot because I've enjoyed a lot. So I'll stick around. It takes a lot, to convince me once I love a show like this to step away and say, I give up on you.
They've banked some interest, so there could be a whole series that is terrible and I would still watch the next one.
Hey, I made it through Matt Smith.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
again, he wasn't all bad.
Matt Smith or Eccleston?
See, I
She likes that.
I like Eccleston.
More than Matt Smith.
I do. Matt Smith is right now, he's one of my least favorites.
That's crazy to
I
me.
think
I
you
don't
might
agree.
just be jealous. I'm not sure.
But I also, for the record, I didn't like Amy Pond at all. So I have other bias. So
I liked her fine. I think I like Martha and Rose and Donna more than Amy.
agreed.
I liked Rory, so I'm willing
do
to
too.
put up with
I
Amy.
really liked Rory.
And Amy had a good storyline. But I mean, Donna Noble. What are you gonna?
Yeah,
do?
what are
What are
you
you gonna
gonna
do
do?
after that? You have to take it.
You have to do totally different.
Totally
direction.
Nobody can
direction.
be as awesome
You can't.
as Donna.
Their
No.
sass-offs were
Well, and
awesome.
they ended with her perfectly.
They did.
Yeah.
Which I was mad. As I was watching, it was like,
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
no, I would be mad if they brought her back, but I want her
would
to
kill
keep
her.
doing it.
Yeah.
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 But if you really like David Tennant and Rory, watch Broadchurch, because they are in that series.
That's true.
There's no time travel.
Yeah.
And did Tennant ever appear on the Catherine Tate show?
No,
He
but-
said he
but-
did in an interview, and I watched every episode of the Catherine Tate
Yeah.
show, and he is not in it or on IMDb as being a part of it.
But they did star in Much Ado About Nothing together, which is amazing if you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I know.
Oh,
they
it's
did.
so good. It's so good.
All right. Well, I think that's going to conclude our inaugural podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening. Stay tuned for further chapters of Couch Potatoes Unite's new forum. We will be doing, in our next episode, we'll be talking about Orange is the New Black, the Netflix-produced original series. But till then, I want to thank Amanda, Kristen, Nick, and Sarah for participating in the discussion today. Doctor Who, the next series, premieres next August on BBC America. So it's going to be not as long of a wait this time. And maybe some of the issues that we discussed today will be ironed out. So if we do check back in with Doctor Who in the podcast format, it will be next year. Thanks for listening. Tell your friends and keep watching. Bye-bye.